Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. I'm back doing another episode of Where Are They Now? And for those of you who haven't heard the first episode or series of these, I will recap. So, as you know, I coach a lot of people. And of course, you've heard me coaching people live on this podcast with my Coaching with Kimmy episodes. And I have a ton of clients who I send off into the world after coaching them. And, it's just so amazing and rewarding when I hear countless success stories. And by the way, success is different for everyone, as you'll hear with my guest today. And I read thousands of emails of previous clients updating me on how their life has improved and often how they find love. So I do these Where Are They Now episodes to inspire and motivate you by hearing what happens to people after I work with them, whether that is on the podcast or working with them over time as clients. I hope you listen to these and get inspired by people's successes and know that success can happen to you too. Even during quarantine, even post quarantine, it all starts with a call. So today I'm bringing on a very special woman I've had the pleasure of working with. And gosh, she started, a little over 3 months ago, which is hard to believe because when you hear the progress she's made in such a short amount of time, it's really impressive. She decided to invest in coaching with me into my Love Academy program because she only had one significant date after being single post-divorce for 5 years, and it was time, but there was a lot of fear there, and I always say as more time goes on, the harder it becomes. So she realized that fear also interfered with her opening up. And in fact, she really never really opened up to men. And she realized that through the course of our coaching together because she had not experienced positive relationships with men, especially with her ex. And more specifically, she struggled with her self-worth overall, which manifested with not getting her needs met, difficulties expressing her feelings and setting boundaries was pretty much non-existent. So consequently, she would attract takers and men who would treat her poorly. And, we uncovered a lot of other things she was finding challenging. She would overanalyze things. She'd get anxiously attached to even just, a couple people she would meet. She would go into analysis paralysis. She was really fearful of launching her online profile just to even start dating. And the ones that she had, she seemed to experience these tornado dates that would get sexual really fast and then boom, they would disappear. So after doing a ton of work, she has shifted dramatically. She started to learn to love herself by expressing what she felt, demanding more for herself in ways of setting boundaries, learning to pace herself and not get attached to the outcome when dating. And because of that, she actually launched. She put up a profile. She started dating up a storm and in a way healthier way. She's really slowing down. I put her on a healthy dating diet so that she could pace herself. And now just starting to date some men who feel different than the other guys she has dated before. Welcome, Alexis. Are you there?
Hi.
Hi.
I am here.
You are here. And oh my goodness. It was weird the other day when I was talking to you, thinking when you started, because it really wasn't that long ago. And I just feel like you are so different now. So it's so great that you're on here.
Yeah, it is crazy that it's only been a few months.
I know.
And yeah, how quickly I can change my mindset.
Yes.
So,
yes.
yeah.
And your wardrobe and your profile.
Yes.
It goes on and on. Well, maybe share a little bit of just about like who you are and what life was like before we started working together.
Yeah. So, I, coming to you was my actual 5-year divorce anniversary present to myself.
Oh, I love that.
I've been divorced 5 years. and I'd done very little dating. I mean, my divorce it was not I mean, no one's is a good experience, but mine was not. And so I wanted to take some time for myself and just rebuild back up my self-worth and self-esteem. And because of not only before my ex-husband, I mean, a lifetime of bad experiences with the wrong men. And so I finally was like, I need to do something different. And I had never, I'd been on, yeah, like you said, like 2 days, one
Mm.
last, and I was like, it's ready. It's time to get back out there. But like you said, I was like in this analysis paralysis, but I really knew I needed a push, and I wanted to try online, but I was also fearful of it. You hear all these horror stories, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to try it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not definitely not going to do that. And so it was, I finally just decided, okay, you need to jump in and do this. And, when, well, we can talk about that more, but yeah, you really did, kind of push me to get back
Mm.
out there and try it, because I needed that, because I clearly wasn't going to do it myself. And I kept over analyzing what pictures, and well, let me change this
Mhm.
picture, and what am I going to write about myself, and just overthinking everything. And then finally it's like, okay, here it is. And then I finally got out there and I got feedback, and they were like, oh, your profile's great. You did great. And, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you can always change it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my God. Wait, I want you to pause for a second because you said something really important. And you said that you were so ready, like you needed to do something different. And
hmm
what, like, tr- there a trigger for you that actually like helped you pull the trigger, so to speak, and invest in coaching for yourself? Because I know there's a lot of people listening and they're like, I know I should, but then
uh-huh.
people never actually do. So like, what was it for you?
Yeah, it was just like something clicked in my head, and it was just like, enough is enough. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It wasn't really like one trigger or one thing. It was just like, you know what? I'm tired of my own, you know, BS, and
Ah,
it's time
yeah.
to move forward. And
Yes, yes.
uh,
It's that fed up point that you get to
yeah,
that you're like,
yeah,
I can't do this anymore. And I no, I really love that, because also indicating for you that you had a lot of fears around just getting up a profile. Because really it wasn't the pictures of the profile. I think, you and I talked about this. It was just that fear factor of being okay and doing it right and not having the
right.
rejection again and all those things that
hmm
come up around the profile. So I love that. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, and I would, I don't know, I would get to where I would think of my mind would go forward to, oh, it's going to be terrible, and it's just like,
Yeah.
no, you know what, it could be great. You could meet a great guy. And so it really was just flipping my mindset from not what's the worst thing that could happen into, hey, what if something really great happened, and
Mhm.
I hadn't thought of it that way before. And actually, I did think of one time I was listening to something, and um, it was one thing that I saw a meme that was like, stop thinking about everything that could go wrong and think of things that could go right. And that kind of struck me. And then there was another thing I was listening to, and it was talking about like your future partner. And it was like,
Mhm.
there's a guy out there that would love you and wants you, and why would you deny that person you? And I'm like, yeah, why am I denying that, to my future person or to myself? I deserve
Yeah.
that, and it's time that I move forward with that.
Ooh, yeah,
And
that deserving piece. Can you talk a little bit
yeah,
about that? Because I think that was another thing that we really worked on. Like, how did you feel about yourself before, this journey?
in the past, I struggled with self esteem because I had been treated poorly in the past by my ex husband, and then all the ex boyfriends before that, pretty much.
Mm.
Uh, and you start. at least I started to realize, or you start to think like you don't deserve, well, this is just the way it is, and it's not. Like, you don't deserve that. You deserve better. And it took me a while I did a lot of positive self-talk with
Mm-hmm.
myself, and I had to do a lot of like positive affirmations on, after you deal with so many, crummy guys, you start to think, well, there's just not any good men out there. Like, how many women have you heard, well, there's just not any good men out there. Dating is just awful now. But you have to really do positive affirmations that there are good men out there. There are good men out there. And I just kept saying that to myself. And it's true,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as you believe that and you put that out in the universe, you will meet good guys.
Well,
I
and
truly believe that.
yeah, and I think it's really true, that whole perspective thing that you're mentioning is that, and you and I talked about this. Like, I believed you that all you've seen are bad
Yeah.
guys, and
Yeah.
but that's because that's all you've experienced, and it's not that those guys are
Right.
going to poof go away. Like, they're still out there, by
Right.
the way,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're
Yeah.
all online, they're all in the bars, they're all in the market, like they're everywhere. But what really, and this is the empowerment, and I see it in you now, is that when you start changing about who you are and you look in the mirror and say, "Wait, I am worth it. I love myself. I will
Mhm.
see good guys." That's when you started seeing good guys. Like it, and it was like this
Yeah.
light bulb switch, and it really, like, for me, for you, that has been the biggest shift that I've seen so far. But anyway, getting back to the life before. So what also was hard for you in ways of, just when you did have those couple dates? Because I remember you talking about the tornado dates that that I label.
Mm.
Like, what would end up happening on those
Um,
dates?
you know, either like nothing. Like, it would just
Yeah.
be like they'd come on strong and you'd be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, this is great. Everything's wonderful." And then they would just disappear, you know? And you're like, "Okay." And then I would kind of want to crawl back in my shell and be like, "Well, forget it. I'll just die alone. It's fine."
Yeah.
you know? And
Right.
and I looked at my other girlfriends and I admired their, that they would just get back up and keep going. And,
Mm.
yeah, it's the same thing with riding a bike. You fall down, you get back up. I mean, hey, that was you weed through bad guys, and that's part of it. But you, you realize that's not all that's out there. And that's not, you don't have to put up with that. And so you're just like, "Oh, yep, nope, thanks, bye. Nope, bye." And, once you keep pushing, weeding through the bad ones, you will come across the good ones because, you realize you don't have to put up with the bad ones anymore.
Yes.
That there are good ones out there.
Yes.
And
Well, and I think what you're alluding to too is the resiliency that you build when you start, putting yourself into action, having those experiences. Because to your point, like, you had no dating experience really for a very
no,
long time. And so of course each date is going to be a huge hit, on your
yeah,
self-esteem. And it's like being in the boxing rank, and when you're down, you just like lay down, like you don't get back up. And now you're like,
right,
okay, that wasn't even a bad blow. I'm just going to get back up and do another dance and do another, and it's because that's what it takes. It is more that practice piece, that you're talking about.
exactly. And
Yeah.
when I was single, I built up my self esteem and I started feeling better about myself. But then when I started dating again, it it does pull that insecurity and anxiety back out of you. And I'm like, "Oh, I thought I wasn't this person anymore." And then you start to
Yeah.
worry about that. But then through your positive self talk and the coaching you gave me, you're like, "No, you're not that girl anymore." And you're
Mm.
easily to pull yourself out of that instead of sitting there and dwelling in it anymore. And you
Oh,
realize you have changed and you don't, you're not that girl you used to be anymore. And, you know, I thought I was, and I remember being like, "Oh, those insecurities come back up." dating brings those back up. But, you've got to just be like, I'm not that person anymore. I've grown since then.
Well,
I don't have to
yeah.
put up with this anymore.
And you have to change the script, right? Like, I think that was the thing that we really worked on. Do you remember? I remember our very first call together. And do
Hmm.
you remember the connections that we made from your upbringing to just who you were
Yeah.
dating? You want to share a little bit
Yeah.
about that? I think that's really powerful because a lot of times you don't realize why things are happening. And I think when you understand it's just an old tape that keeps playing, that's when you can stop the tape and create a new one.
Yeah, I remember thinking that was one of the amazing things about you before I even told you really about my childhood. You were just like, "Oh, so did this happen?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, that is exactly what happened." So, I mean, yeah, I didn't, grow up with the best positive role models of what a relationship should be, what proper boundaries should be, what, I didn't have the best examples of men, and so I grew up thinking, well, this is just how it is, and, you know, now I realize, no, that's not how it is. That's not how it has to be.
Hmm.
And, and I, I thought it was like, and so instead of, focusing on, what I grew up with, I start looking outward at examples of other people I know that did do it right and that are in healthy relationships. And I'm like, look, there's someone that's in a healthy relationship. It does exist. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I really didn't think it did. And that's
Hmm.
kind of sad.
Well, but I'm just so proud of you that you just, got on a call and I mean, we all have blind spots. We all can't see everything, especially when we're in it. It
Hmm.
sometimes takes that bird's eye view, and having a look. And that's why we all need coaches and mentors and friends and, to help us do those like check and balances. But
Hmm.
I want to connect that for you and also people listening about that upbringing when you grow up in a home where there's a lot of, unpredictability. There's a lot of
Hmm.
anxiety that gets
Hmm.
fostered. And I think fast forward, that was the thing that I think we discovered together and how you were dating. There's a lot of anxiety because dating brings up a lot of unknowns, a lot of
Hmm.
uncertainties. And if there's one thing that you can maybe like glob onto, then you'll glob onto it. And that's where the attachment style comes in, the anxious attachment. You're like, okay, well, this is more certain. So I'm just going to glob on here because that's something that might have felt more secure. And so now, as you're untangling that and you're still going through it, right? And obviously like nothing
Yeah.
happens overnight, but the more you learn to not glob onto each thing that feels like you have some control over or certainty around and just really staying present and going with the flow, that's when you'll learn how to get through the anxiety piece and really just rely on you. And that's real that
Right.
has been the journey, right? It's the journey, not the destination necessarily that you're now focusing on. So we'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, so what as we were coaching together, what were some of the top skills you gained along the ways? Like, do you remember some things that really worked for you in our coaching together?
Learning how to deal, like when I would feel like like you said, I developed this, I mean, it was this anxious attachment style and learning how to, when that would pop up, how to calm it down, like what
Mm,
exercises to do when it comes up, because it will come up.
yeah.
And, like we talked about, you know, journaling and, refocusing and going back to like, you know, you had me, come up with a what do you call it, strengths about me list, and what
Mhm.
are the good things about you? And I had to keep going through that. And, this is why I'm great. This is why I deserve this.
Mm.
And getting out of my head, like you said, and more, I didn't realize I was even doing that, that I had gotten used to pushing down my emotions and, learning to let those out and be more expressive, and, you know, learning to share myself, and, you know, let, like you said, let men earn me,
Mhm.
instead of me always being, like you said, I was one that was always like, oh, what can I do? How do I make this guy like me? And, it's just refocusing on, no, not how do I make this guy like me? Like, do I like him? Is he good enough for me? You
Yes,
know,
sister.
and,
Sing it
and
loud, sing it proud. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, so learning it's okay to express my thoughts and feelings,
Mhm.
and, you know, really feeling the self love, the self worth, you know, being vulnerable and open, but without like totally slashing all of my walls down. It's like,
Right.
that's what another thing that I've kind of learned is, you need to be open and somewhat vulnerable, but you also don't need to like put your entire guard down and be like, hey, this is everything I am, and these are all my deep dark secrets. Like, you you you
Mhm.
you go slower, like you said, and I'm not used to going slower. I'm used to like, oh,
Yeah.
I thought I just jumped in with both feet and took whatever I came to me, and it's like, no, it's more like a, slow, jog than a sprint.
Mhm. Yes, and with that, that had to do a lot with, like, just the way you were flirting or not flirting, so to speak, right? Like, and
Right.
how do you get men
Yeah.
to earn you and draw them in and not just give all of you away, too soon, too
Mhm.
fast. And a lot of
Mhm.
times people don't think about flirting or building chemistry that way. It really has to do with pacing. I love
Mhm.
that you just said that. And what I love seeing also in you is how it translated and leaked into other areas of your life, like those conversations we had about your work and how
Mhm.
have been standing up for yourself and using the I feel message and all of that. You
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Like, I learned it. Because, yeah, in other areas, it's not just dating. In other areas
Yeah.
of life, where you start to doubt yourself, but you start to, I've become more assertive at work as well, and I had some, conflicts with my new boss that had changed, and instead of just, you know putting up with everything and not saying anything back or ever defending
Mhm.
myself, I was finally like, actually, when you do this, it makes me feel this, and
Mhm.
he was, and uh it I just got more used to, defending myself and asserting myself, and
Mhm.
not in all areas of my life, and
Yeah.
you know, same with dating. It's another thing we talk, like setting boundaries. Being like,
Yes.
hey, this is okay, this is not okay.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't used to that. I wasn't used to sticking up for myself. I wasn't used to setting boundaries because I didn't I remember when we first started talking together. I'm like, boundaries, what's that? Like,
I don't even know that word. I remember
I
hearing
don't even know. Yeah, like, that's a thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes, it's a very important thing, and I had to learn about that.
And also seeing yourself in a different way, because I mean, on a very like tangible level, even going through the whole process of picking out the pictures, like I remember that, obviously
Mhm.
working from the outside in is my jam. And I felt like that was so important for you to really see yourself in that black dress. Remember some of the other pictures you had up? You're like, oh, well, this is just me and my lifestyle. And you were,
Yes,
do you remember that? Like just putting yourself out
yeah,
there in that
and you're
black
like,
dress and the pink dress.
yes, like becoming, like stepping into my more feminine side because I forgot I had that, and
Mhm.
feeling sexy, and yeah, I remember I would show you a picture. I'm like, oh, here's just me in this sweater, and you're like, no.
You know, and
uh,
you can't see her as you're listening to this, but she's gorgeous. And that's what like I was just floored. I like Alexis, you're so beautiful. And you're just, like you're hiding in your pictures with just these.
Yeah.
And I think you recognize that. I mean, it's all part of like how it was leaking, like in your pictures, the way
Hmm.
you were putting yourself out there, the way you were talking, like all of it.
Yeah, and like when you talked about and you don't have to go into that, but people that listen to you will know about like your red dress moment. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I do have a red dress and I have a pink dress.
You have a pink
And,
dress, and then what
you
did you
know,
have in that? You had a arrow
uh,
or
yeah. So I'm like dressed in this pretty pink fancy dress and holding an axe because I was
oh,
axe
that's right, it
throwing
was
in
an
a pink
axe.
dress. And I used that as one of my profile pictures. Yeah. And then I used one of, a like full body, like black dress that,
Mhm.
has gotten a lot of attention. And so, I wanted people to see my feminine side, but also my fun side,
Yeah.
and then, I cheated a bit with having, a collage pic on one of my pics. And it was just like me doing fun activities like, hey, I've been skydiving, I've been, zip lining, I've been trapeze flying. I mean, who goes trapeze flying? And so guys see those pictures and they're like, wow, not only is this girl, sexy, but she's fun and she likes to do fun stuff. And,
That was the really important part for you and for you listening, like, because a lot of times people will put the lifestyle shots up
hmm
saying, oh, look at all the fun things that I can do. But if you don't have the sexy, feminine, approachable type of picture in juxtaposition of that, then it
hmm
only shows that one like side of you that could easily be viewed as just like a cool chick to hang out with, not like,
right,
ooh, I want to date her. And that I think was a
right.
big switch for you too, like really being comfortable with that side of you. And I think going through that whole process with the pictures helped with that. Well, talk a little bit now about where life is now. Like you're starting to like I'll never forget your first post in the group. You're like, I have a date.
I have a date. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to go on a date again. Like, you go so long
Yeah.
and you're like, am I ever going to date again? Like, is this ever going to work out for me? And then you just jump in and you start doing it. And when we first started working together, I didn't even know like how to talk to guys. Like, I'm like, or
Mhm.
how to flirt or how to start conversations. And so you just do it and you practice. And the more you practice, the more comfortable you get, the better you get. So I just jumped in and I went on dates and I finally from online. And at first I was scared to death to try it. And then I was just like, okay, we're doing it. Let's just go. And so I've had successful dates, and I even I went on 4 dates with the same guy, and that was actually
Woohoo!
that was a new record. And I mean, something that happened quickly, like in a
Mhm.
month. And I didn't think, like, once I finally launched and got out there, it moved quick, and it was like, wow, there are a lot of men that are interested in me. And a
Aw.
lot of it, there's a lot of weeding through, but once you read through some, you're like, oh, this is actually a good guy, and I actually am having fun on dates. And you know, I don't know if it'll work out with date number 4 guy. I honestly don't. But it, in the beginning, I was having that. I started getting in my own head, and you start forward thinking, like, is this
Mhm.
the guy? And you told me, no, do not hyper focus on one guy.
Mhm.
That's not the only guy out there, and pay attention to how you feel. And so, I started, paying attention to how I felt, and not, just being like, I want him to like me. Does he like me? And more focusing on how I feel when I'm with him. And, do I feel good about myself? And, you know, the date 4 felt different than the first 3. And I really channeled into, I don't feel like this guy is as into this as I'm into him. And I feel like I deserve more than this. And so now, and
Yes.
I started getting anxious about it. And what, like, normally my old self would have been like, oh, what did I do wrong? Did I say something stupid? Did I do something stupid? And it's like, no, like
Mhm.
I'm just me. I'm me. And either you like me or you don't. And if you don't, bye.
Oh,
Like there's
so
someone
good.
else out there for me.
Mhm.
And so I'm learning to, I've taken a step back and I'm not freaking out about it, and, I made another date with a different guy, like
I
after, like
love it.
today, shortly after our call, I'm going on another date. So,
Yeah.
with someone else, and because I can, and why
Mhm.
not? And
See, to me
bef-
that no, that is the big I like the success story, like there it is right there. What you
mhm,
just said. You have already broken probably the biggest pattern for yourself, and that was, I think, the most challenging, and not getting attached, too soon, too
yeah,
fast, and knowing your
mhm,
self-worth. And when you're not feeling something, it's not about, oh, what did I do wrong? It's about, hey, what is he not doing right for me?
exactly, yes,
Yeah.
flipping
So
flipping the script,
it
exactly.
is. It is. Well, this is really exciting. And I just have so much like hope for you and excitement for you on your new journey as you just like enjoy this whole dating process, and within that just getting to know yourself and loving yourself even more and more, and eventually the right one will land and you'll know when it's right. But the fact that you're slowing down, collecting data, pacing yourself, seeing your self-worth, that's where it's at. So if you had like and this is only what, like a 3-month-ish process that you've
Yeah,
had,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's crazy, but if you could go back in time and give yourself advice, or anybody listening who's thinking about bettering themselves and they're kind of in that state that you were before, what advice would you give?
I mean, I took forever to
Mhm.
put my profile up. And I would say just do it. Stop overthinking it, stop thinking it has to be perfect. Just just do it.
Yeah.
Get out of the analysis paralysis, and get your mindset out of that negativity. And you know because it's easy to hear, when other you talk to some of your other girlfriends and they're, oh, dating's awful and this is this, like, step away from those conversations and get surround yourself more with people that are more positive and looking for, you know, better, something better and what you deserve. And what could go right, and
Mm,
realize that there are good men out there and that you can have fun dating. It's not, the total, like, oh my gosh, stop listening to all the nightmare stories. Like I told you, it's almost like when you want to stop watching the news, you turn on the news and it's just
mhm.
like everything
Oh, it's a
sounds
good
terrible,
comparison. Yes, that's
and
yeah.
it, so turn that off and focus within and be like, I'm worth it. There are good men out there, and just do it.
I love
Stop
that. That's so good. That's
stop
such good
wasting
advice.
time.
Stop wasting time. And I think in efforts of a lot of people who are worried about wasting time, that's why they don't launch, because they're like, oh, I don't want to
Mhm.
waste my time. They're wasting time. So it's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
if you listening are doing that, like how much time are you wasting time? And it is true. And on that note, because you mentioned the friends, like what would you say to people who are maybe thinking about coaching and just don't know, or they're not sure whether or not to hop on a call with me or get coached or whatever? Like, how is it different than your friends? Because I think that is an important piece.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because I even told you, like I think I get a lot of bad advice, and
I know.
my friend said to do this, and you're like, no, do not do that, and so, you know, yeah. I mean, it's like a therapy session and dating advice rolled into one. And
Oh.
you're very intuitive, and I think not many people have that gift. Like the first call I had with you, I was like, you were in tune, like you knew what I was before I even told you. Like I would tell you little snippets and you're like, oh, well then you must be this. Well, then you need to work on this. And it was just like you automatically knew where I was coming from and where I needed to go.
Mm.
And, where I was before, I was stuck in this, circle of negativity and inaction. And, you pushed me into action and into a world of positivity and hope. And
Oh.
yeah, I didn't feel that before. And I mean, I wouldn't, without you, I wouldn't be going on these dates. I'd probably still be sitting in this analysis paralysis, negativity, not doing anything, and still doubting myself. And now I'm like, no, I'm not that girl anymore. I deserve a great guy, and really feeling that and knowing that and putting that out in the universe, and knowing that it's going to come. Like I remember thinking, oh, me dating, that's just like a, or me ending up in a relationship, that's like some kind of pipe dream. That's not going to happen for me. Like, come on, never has before. Why would it now? And that's sad that I really thought that. And now I'm coming from a point where I know that is going to happen for me. I may
Oh,
not know
yeah.
when, and I don't know, if it's this guy or that guy, but I feel more empowered and am more in control of
Mhm.
my dating life, and I'm coming from it from a different perspective than I ever have before. And I'm breaking the patterns of, like I told you, like, gosh, I always pick the wrong men. And it's like, well, because you're coming from it the wrong mindset. You're
Yeah.
going to keep making the same mistakes, and you're going to keep picking the wrong men if you keep getting on this negative cycle. And so I finally had to take a step back and be like, okay, I am not doing this anymore. I am not this girl anymore. And really believing
Alexis, that was so
that.
beautiful. Like I'm clapping, standing ovation for you right now. You should have your own podcast, and maybe
Oh,
you will one day to inspire others. And I know people listening are really just loving what they're hearing, and I think you're going to help a lot of people just get out of their own way, out of their head, and really thrust themselves into action, because that's what it took. It was getting out of the hamster wheel, and it's not easy to
yes.
do, but once you do it, then you
No.
start moving forward. And I just want to thank you so much for, first of all, coming on and sharing your journey with everyone. But most of all, I just loved working with you. And I'm excited to see just, yeah, your next part of, or chapter, I should say, in your story. So thanks for joining me today. As always, this has been the Charisma Quotient, and I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want to know more, make sure you go to my site, kimmyseltzer.com. And when listening to this, you realize it's been a long time since you've dated and want to know how to get back out there without anxiety. I have two opportunities for you. First, hop on a free call with me personally by clicking on the link you see in the show notes to book it. It is one call, and that one call, who knows, could change your entire life. It has for others. And if you haven't heard already, I have my very first ultimate flirt masterclass. And guess what? It's for men and women. Yep, it's time to put y'all in the room together. And we're going to talk about creating irresistible chemistry. And it's coming up May 26th. You're going to learn how to stop feeling weird about flirting and learn how to just try it, what body signals you're giving off and which ones will get you noticed, conversational tricks to help you create that chemistry, secrets to your dating wardrobe, and so much more. This is not conceptual, by the way. This is hands on learning and practice. So here's the important thing, I changed the date. It's May 26th. It's next Wednesday. So note that. And registration is now open. So reserve your spot by clicking on the link you see in the show notes. And because seats are going to be limited, you will definitely want to hop in sooner than later. And remember, it starts with you because working on yourself is working on your love life. That's all for now.